Hi, my name is Barry Bradford. I'm a historian. I'm probably best known as the historian who helped to reopen two old cold cases from the civil rights era. But that's not the story we're going to be talking about today. Today, I want to talk about Rodgers and Hammerstein and their creation of South Pacific. It was one of the biggest hit musicals ever to appear on Broadway. It's been revived many times. It's performed all over the country, and it contains one of the most important and interesting questions ever raised in a Broadway musical. The question has so much to do with the times. South Pacific premiered in 1949. This was 4 years after the war had ended, and many of our soldiers had come home. And in that time, many Americans were questioning the way that America would continue to develop as a nation. For one thing, during the Second World War, black soldiers and white soldiers were forced to fight in segregated units. Black soldiers fought in one unit, white soldiers fought in another unit. And then after the war, some of those black soldiers came home and began questioning, why did we just fight a racist in Germany and then have to come home and fight racism here in America? Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote the lyrics and also wrote the book, which is like the script of a musical, wanted to write a musical that would directly attack the question of racism. Now, usually when you think of going to a Broadway show, you think about going to see something that's kind of light and fun and lots of stuff you can hum. That's not always the case. Some current Broadway musicals are about serious topics. You can look at things like Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, Come From Away, and they're all great. But in South Pacific, it's really one of the first musicals on the Broadway stage to become extraordinarily popular and raise a serious question. So why was Oscar Hammerstein so intent on writing a musical about racism? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first is Oscar Hammerstein just hated racism. He had all his life. He belonged to any number of organizations that attacked racism. He was the co-founder of an orphanage trying to help mixed-race children left behind after American soldiers had left Asia to find homes in America at a time when many people in Asia and many people in America didn't want a mixed-race child. But maybe the most significant story is Oscar Hammerstein's brother-in-law was part Japanese. And during the Second World War, his brother-in-law was interned, as many other Japanese people were in America. Hammerstein and his wife took custody of their niece, this man's daughter, and they went to enroll her in the local public schools. And Hammerstein asked the principal of the school, will she face any discrimination because she's part Japanese? And the principal of the school said, she'll have to pay the price for what Japanese people did to America. Hammerstein was shocked and upset. He refused to enroll her in the school and put her in a private school where she was better treated. He then worked on the musical South Pacific. In South Pacific, there are two main love stories happening at the same time. The first is a girl from the South, a young Army nurse, who's described as naive and well-meaning, who's volunteered to be a nurse in the Army. And she falls in love with a handsome French planter. Their whirlwind romance seems to be going beautifully until she finds out that he had two mixed-race children from a previous relationship. And she's aghast. She tries to break off the relationship with him. She realizes she can't possibly marry him and adopt these two little mixed-race children because they could never come home to Arkansas. Nobody would accept them. She couldn't bring them home to meet Grandma. At the same time, there's a second love story. An incredibly brave Marine lieutenant named Joe Cable meets and falls in love with a local island girl who's obviously Asian. And he comes to the realization he can't marry her because he can't bring her back, and they live in Philadelphia in the north. Hammerstein was saying this isn't just a Southern problem, this is an American problem. The two of them, Nellie and Joe, sit and talk, and Nellie says, I can't help being prejudiced, it's just the way I am. And Joe sings this very important song to her. It's called, You've Got to Be Carefully Taught. And the lyrics couldn't be any clearer. They say, nobody is born with prejudice. We learn to be bigots. We learn to be afraid of people of different colors, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds, different nationalities. What do you think? Are people just born with prejudice in them? Or do they have to be carefully taught? I wish I could be there to hear your discussion. Thank you for letting me join you in class today. Have a great day.